Alright, so we've got our first non-mirror of the tournament with Vegie facing off against Lilypadd. Vegie in the blue trunks as French. Lilypadd in the red trunks as Delhi. So our first Delhi pick and our first non-mirror of the tournament in round 2 of the Warchief Club 13. So we're teeing off and we're on Hill and Dale. Or I like to call it Hill and Disgusting because I think it's too easy to try and turtle up on this map. Doesn't really cost a lot to invest in walls, but at the same time, as much as I don't like to admit it, it can actually be quite a hard map for turtlers as well because you're so restricted on what resources you have on your high ground. Like people in the early game, yeah, sure. 16k gold is quite a fair bit, but at the same time, by the time you get to Lake Castle, you will need to get on the low ground for gold and probably for stone. Probably for wood too, because really you've only often got one good wood clump and one mediocre wood clump. So the French player, Vegie, going for early wheelbarrow, but otherwise not too worried about wood gathering early on. Being French, you really want to beeline your H2, get that night pressure going. Lilypadd committing to an early mosque because you want to get a scholar garrisoned so you can get faster researchers, you can get free researchers, so free wheelbarrow and free survival techniques on the way. Going to take a little bit of time though, because as a base there's a 3 times train research length because it's all free. So what you do is you basically load up all these mosques with scholars to get faster tech. Make use of the fact that the techs themselves don't cost anything. You're investing in the scholars, which when you get to Castle Age you can get all the relics, you can get all the sacred sites, or if you're able to, you can sneak in Sanctity and you can generate more gold out of your sacred sites. And on top of that, get them in Feudal Age. Can't get relics in Feudal, but at least you can take some map control with the Sacreds. And you can get some gold gen that way. So, now Vegie is looking to get some more lumber. Going on the lumber camp now. Has the resources to go to Age 2 almost. Going to be able to get there pretty soon. Wheelbarrow already done. Wheelbarrow still on the way for Lilypadd. So I mean you can always invest in a second scholar pretty early here. Piety coming out first, but you can probably also fit in the scholar first. Go Piety, go efficient production there. But in saying that you need to get the gold earlier to do so, so probably best off doing it this way with Piety first, or efficient production first. Get the scholar, get the other, and then get Sanctity. And then, I mean, if you do decide to go fast castle, you can always cancel Sanctity before it starts researching and go for it. But against a civ like French, you're probably going to be sitting in Feudal for a little while. To get some spearmen out, fend off the early knights, get some of your own horsemen or bowmen to fend off their bowman unit. And all that time, you know, you got the time to get these techs, you know, Piety, efficient production and Sanctity. You can even skip efficient production if you really want, or Piety if you really want, and get Sanctity out early. And just defend with whatever you need to defend with. Like Delhi, a little bit like Ardeshir, and a little bit like some of the other civs, like Chinese as well. Because you're playing such a passive Age 2, you might opt to go for an early second town centre. While the French player, probably going to play pretty balls to the wall, get the early knights out in the field because they are such an imposing unit, and without spearmen out, nothing can really contend with knights. And behind that you can gather the stone for an Age 2 town centre, which Vegie's doing as well. So Vil production on French is a little bit quicker than the other civs and increases per age with speed. And on top of that, your eco techs are cheaper as well, so if you can get a nice fill boom out, it can really be worthwhile getting techs like survival techniques when you go on the hunt. You can fit in techs like horticulture or double broad axe or pickaxe a little bit, specialized pick a little bit quicker than you otherwise normally would on the other civs. Just because they're cheaper, you really can look at forcing them out when you're at 12 to 13 vils rather than at 15 to 16. And still have it be worth it because you haven't had to invest as much. So Dome of the Faith, Lilypadd's going to be able to print scholars out of this building like you wouldn't believe and still get all of these techs out as well. So efficient production on the way, Sanctity probably going to be on the way after that. And we see an early barracks because, you know, Vegie, H2 is finished up. Knight's probably going to be on the way shortly, but because Vegie's committed to such an early town centre, the initial Knight's not going to be as quick, and Vegie might even opt to go for a Horseman first because Vegie will be able to afford a Horseman before a Knight. But in saying that, you know, the Delhi player, Lilypadd, hitting feudal age now, and they're only just going to start the spear production. So Vegie's pretty safe to have the second town centre transition. Lilypadd hasn't started any stone gathering yet, banking a little bit of wood. So I think Vegie's spending slightly better at the moment because the second town centre's out now. Lilypadd's already got the wood to try and go for something like a second town centre or another production facility or a blacksmith. Here we go. Pair of blacksmiths coming out actually. So not a bad idea on Delhi considering everything takes longer to research but is free. And Sanctity going to come now. But I think Lilypadd probably needs to look at getting some more scholars just to really take advantage of that. Because in the meanwhile, Vegie has started trickling knights. Still needs to get a bit more gold, but at saying that, Vegie's also going to go for a range. You know, the perfect follow-up to the knights. Because every civ other than Rus is basically always going to open with early spear production to try and out-muscle your front line. Rus is pretty much the only civ other than, you know, French in its own mirror that can actually contend with French front lines with knights this early on in the game. So Vegie's going, well, I know what I need next. A pair of rangers to really follow up and seal the deal here. And we've got ranged damage and armor on the way for Lilypadd. So Lilypadd's going to follow up with a range as well. Archers. Archer Spear versus Spear Knight. It's not unusual for an early game match versus the French. Because, like it or not, if you're playing against French, doesn't matter what civ you are, you really have to tailor your early game to deal with their knights. Even English, who in every other matchup generally get to dictate how feudal age goes, because they're also such an aggressive civ with the earliest access to man-at-arms and the best longbowmen. Even they have to succumb to the French oppression in feudal. So, pair of rangers and the stable here for Vegie, and Vegie's making sure that there's no easy way to try and get the middle sacred sites. Even sending scouts to keep an eye on the other sacreds because Lilypadd being a Delhi player, like I said, with Sanctity and with early access to a religious unit, can probably look at getting the sacred sites in about a minute. Yeah, 45 seconds. And in the meanwhile, you just want to make sure they don't sneak anything out there for free and start either walling up the sacred sites or, yeah, sending a scholar onto them. So Vegie, really nice map control, keeping an eye on all three sacred sites. Obviously, might have to rally a knight down here just to make sure that Vegie holds on to this one. But Lilypadd, in the meanwhile, can look at committing to one of these. Obviously, if Vegie tries and splitting up units across 2 or 3 of them, it gives Lilypadd the chance to dive one with everything. But in saying that, if Lilypadd does bring everything from home, and we see, yeah, a single spearman on the wood and a single spearman on the gold, a pair of them just defending this front of the base. And here we go, one of the scholars out now. So Lilypadd's going to try and commit to the bottom sacred site, but Vegie is going to be able to bring everything to intercept this, and he's going to have good vision of this. So the French player has just as many bows here as the Delhi player, so I do like Vegie's chance of an engagement here, considering double bow production versus single bow, single racks production. Not to mention Vegie's already got the knights. But there is upgrades coming in here. Well, the French player, you know, they do get that free melee armor. I mean, melee damage. Vegie won't be equal or ahead on upgrades forever here. So the knight pickoff's nice. I mean, the scout pickoff's nice, but saying that, Vegie's going to try and focus down all the spears as quickly as possible with the bows, while having the knights sort of take the long way around there before they engage. And now Lilypadd really being punished. Well, able to get able to attempt getting one of the sacred sites, but it's not going to go so well because both the wolf and the scout are focusing down the scholar. So even with that little bit of a health buffer, Lilypadd is going to throw away that scholar. And another scholar here, just outside of sacred site range, and there is a scout there already. And this is in between Vegie. Well, Vegie's army is in between Lilypadd's and that scholar. So Lilypadd taking a nicer fight this time, getting a knight, and Vegie's only got a pair of them here. While in the meanwhile, there is some of the other knights just sort of idle. But Vegie picking off a scholar, and those guys aren't cheap. It is 75 gold for them still, and they'd be 150 if out of the initial mosque. Compound of the defender. So infantry can build walls, gates and towers, and emplacements are cheaper too. So Vegie dropping a couple of bowmen here while trying to snipe a scholar. Lilypadd might be able to grab this bottom side sacred site. And saying that's an imposing force here from Vegie. 96 pop to 68 for Lilypadd. So losing that initial trade has really hurt Lilypadd. And now it's going to be extremely difficult for Lilypadd to actually contest sacred sites. Because even though there is most of the army here, the French army is inbound. So Vegie dropping one of the archers there, but bearing in mind it's 15 archers to 11 and 6 to 6 for spears. So the French spears to knights. So the French army right now is worth an awful lot more. And Lilypadd, things aren't going so great because the knights are actually going to focus down the spears alongside the bows to begin with, just for long enough. But then Vegie to switch things up, focus down all the archers. So Lilypadd coming off worse for wear again in another trade, having taken castle behind this, bearing in mind, but at the same time the French player now is free to take the guild hall, go to castle himself, while not really having to worry so much about any investment in an expensive feudal army, because Vegie's already won 2 fights and Lilypadd hasn't been able to acquire any sacred site for any length of time. Ideally, if the Delhi player is going to commit to the extra couple of scholars and commit to getting sanctity rather than potentially any of these other upgrades, and like using scholars in fights as a healer and potentially a buff bot with that little zeal bonus, the French player looking really good, Delhi not looking so good. Well, yeah, Delhi really wants to try and possess at least one of the sacred sites to at least instill the fear and set themselves up to potentially get a nice elephant army, or start really playing aggressively with military building, because one of Delhi's strengths is the fact that they can actually wall up. They can't actually add like just outpost towers, which is a shame, but you can always bring villagers for that. But they can wall up with their infantry in their range. This could be a nice catch here for Lilypadd, but at the same time Vegie has so much army here that Lilypadd is going to need to disengage. And Lilypadd trying to sneak back into the base is going to cop a couple of losses for his trouble. So Vegie streaming the knights forward. Even going to be able to engage under town centre fire just to pick off the melee because there's so little there. Oh, in the meanwhile, Lilypadd, even with the sneaky scholar, has to back it off because Vegie has kept a scout there. And I think another scholar might have fallen over here as well. So Lilypadd's going to evacuate that one fine. But Vegie's thinking, nah, I want that gold. So I'm going to catch that scholar. Ooh, this could be really nice for Vegie because not only is the scholar going to fall, but this food source is going to be denied for Lilypadd. And Lilypadd has a little bit of wood to be able to go for a farm transition, but I mean it's not ideal because really at this stage you probably want to put that wood into increasing your production facilities, getting enough houses that you can go for a big army and eco boom, and still, you know, producing what food and wood units you need until you actually get the gold to make a nice food gold army. Tower Elephant, I think it's a bit overextended because bearing in mind these things are worth 1,000 resources. If Vegie can snipe this, Lilypadd is really going to be behind from here. So it's not going to fall and it's going to get some good damage on the knights, but a lot of these supporting archers are going to die alongside the knights. So some more rangers and a barracks being added as well for Lilypadd. Vegie's got so much stone in the bank, I do not know why. Maybe keeps? Yeah, so that's a costly hit because Tower Elephants are 1,000 resources. So Vegie losing 3 knights for that, it's surely worth it. Because a whole bunch of archers also died for Lilypadd. So right now Vegie looking really dominant. Unfortunately for Lilypadd, oh, this is rough. While that fight was going on, hasn't noticed that so many vills have been sniped here. So we've got 43 vills for Lilypadd, 99 for Vegie. Vegie has double and then some of the eco of Lilypadd at this point. Not only has Vegie got the second town centre, but it's also sniped, I'd say, at least half a dozen villages there. And Lilypadd has dropped 3 or 4 scholars trying to get on sacred sites. Now Vegie able to make such a hefty investment in mid-map control and even look at going 4 relics if he desires. So monastery now, I don't know if any monks have been produced yet, but Vegie is pretty set up, I think, to try and close this one out. Lilypadd backed into a corner at the moment. There's no lower side food or gold here on this side. It's all on this top side, and I think Vegie's going to keep abusing that fact that Lilypadd really forced to expand onto this top side at the moment. Like, look, there's not really anything here that Lilypadd can go for. Just stone, just maybe this gold mine. This food's already been taken by Vegie. And everything up on this top side, like I said, Vegie keeping an eye on it. Oh, this could really come down to the wire. Oh, it does fall, but inside. So Lilypadd, a little bit lucky, really, because it's going to take just another scholar to walk that back home. This is not really going to be easy. Oh, but that's a lot of units to bring up here just to deal with the one knight, because they're all... Archers aren't going to be able to deal with a knight too well, other than from behind a wall. And Vegie can just back off, and even look at pushing here, because that's a lot of the army for Lilypadd. But Lilypadd, Vet Spearman now. A pair of Tower Ellies. Oh, that relic. Lilypadd just needs to walk that home just that little bit. Like, I'd even put a scholar out of the moss to do it, even with upgrades in queue. Because that is only just outside of arm's reach at the moment. But, oh. I was going to say, is Lilypadd bringing that here to try a convert? But no, Lilypadd's just going to try and bring the relic home first. The other relic. I don't believe that the knight killed the scholar in the doorway, which meant that the relic falls inside. It's a stroke of good luck there for Lilypadd, but nothing else has really gone to Lilypadd's game all the way, because I don't know how Lilypadd catches up from here, really. Needs to add a second town centre, but can't really afford to gather anything other than food and gold at the moment. And probably needs to get a couple more spears to camp this food source right now, because eventually Vegie's now able to afford keeping this zone. Been a nice move out over here for Lilypadd, actually, picking off a whole bunch of gatherers of veggies. But there's no real vision of other villages in the vicinity. In the meanwhile, Vegie can look at taking this fight, I think, because Vegie is nearly maxed right now. Lilypadd only on about 100 pop, so even with a rough engage for Vegie, the unit count disparity is going to mean I think this might be it, because there's no front line here for Lilypadd. And the tower is going to fall. One falls, and GG, Vegie goes through to the next round.